The company is not just doing that because they love you. I hate to break it to you, but that's not how it works, right? They are not waiving surrender charges because you're a great person. They're waiving surrender charges because you added a rider for a fee. We've been doing this for a long time, tons of policy reviews specializing in index universal life insurance, whole life, and really any form of cash value life insurance. And a lot of the requests that we get is, I'm looking for high early cash value, as high as it can possibly be. I want to put in, $100,000 and I want to have $100,000 accessible to me. We've heard it all the way up to, millions. I want to put in $500 a month and have 500 there. Okay. There's all kinds of ways that you can show high early cash value. And today I'm going to show you why typically we talk people out of high early cash value. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a high early cash value design from a current policy, like a current illustration that someone might use to show you, hey, you can have high early cash value and it looks really good. This is what you should get. And then I'm going to show you from an in-force ledger. I've taken screenshots from an in-force ledger on a high early cash value policy. It's not one that we wrote. Someone sent it to us because they needed help with it. And I'm going to show you why on paper, a lot of times those high early cash value products don't work the way that they're supposed to work. So I'll share my screen and we'll go through all this one bit at a time. So here's our high early cash value design. And on the face of it, it looks pretty darn good. It doesn't matter what company this is with because every single company is gonna essentially, you're gonna have to make the same tweaks to end up here. So we're putting in $200,000 over 5 years, total of $1 million in the policy. And we're breaking even, essentially we're breaking even here in year 2, 394, really breaking even by year 3, 612 in cash value, you put in 600. By the end of the 5 years, you got $1,093,000. You'll notice there's no surrender charges on this particular policy. That is one of the tricks to get those high early cash values. Most of these policies, if not every single one, is going to have, unless it's a high early cash value specific product, all these policies are going to have surrender charges. And that is one of the reasons that you'll see your premium outlay to cash surrender value in that first year off by quite a bit. And that's okay. Those are surrender charges. There's no such thing as a free lunch, okay? If we waive the surrender charges, the company is not just doing that because they love you. I hate to break it to you, but that's not how it works, right? They are not waiving surrender charges because you're a great person. They're waiving surrender charges because you added a rider. Typically, it's called like a surrender value enhancement rider or a waiver of surrender charges rider or whatever. There's all kinds of names for it. It doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. They waive the surrender charges for a fee, okay? For a different fee. So just hang on to that. We'll get there in a second. The other thing that I had to do with this policy is a huge term insurance blend in order to get that cash value higher. We'll talk about that as well. And then the last thing I needed to do is the way that the IRS is going to look at this policy, rather the way that the company is going to look at this policy and determine whether or not they report distributions to the IRS, is whether or not this policy is considered a modified endowment contract. And there are rules around what makes this policy a modified endowment contract. And if you want all the dollars coming out to be non-reportable, you do not want this to be a MEC, a modified endowment contract. Okay, well, the IRS basically has two ways they test these policies to see if it's a modified endowment contract. One is called the Cash Value Accumulation Test. The other is called the Guideline Premium Test. And whoever you're working with, the broker or you, if you know what you're doing, you get to choose which of those two tests you use to determine if this policy is a MEC or not, and thus taxable. Cash Value Accumulation Test is the only thing that whole life can use. They can't use the Guideline Premium Test. The index life world can use either. So you get to choose in the index life world. In whole life, you have to use Cash Value Accumulation Test. The cash value accumulation test typically is going to allow you to have higher early cash values, but it's going to require you to buy more insurance later on in the policy life. So you can see high early cash values, but the costs ratchet up much more quickly than it would in the guideline premium test, because as you get older, they actually require you to buy more insurance. That makes it more costly. Well, in order for this to have such a high early cash value, 190 versus we put in 200, I had to use that cash value accumulation test. So those are some of the tricks of the trade. I can make a policy look good on paper, high early cash value. And this policy does look good on paper. You put in $1 million, you double your money in 15 years in a fixed product that's going to come out tax-free. That's not too bad. Like that's pretty good. But there are some huge holes with this particular design, and I'm going to show you exactly what they are. In order for you to see exactly what I'm talking about, all we have to do is look at the charges ledger. So here is the charges ledger. And anytime we talk about life insurance specifically and the charges, a lot of people talk about the differences between whole life, index life, variable life, current assumption UL, and there are definitely differences. We've done videos on that. If you want to see it, I'd encourage you to check those out. But when it comes to this particular topic, it's super important to understand that not all fees are created equal. Not all fees are created equal. Some of the fees in the indexed world, and the reason we're going to talk about the indexed world is because you don't actually get to see the fees on whole life. You've never seen a fee ledger on whole life. You just haven't. You haven't seen the fee breakdown because it doesn't exist. The only person that sees those are the actuaries. Your broker doesn't see those. The agent doesn't see those. The person at the home office that you call, the 800 number, they don't see those. The actuary knows the fees. They're the ones who build the product. But in whole life, they do not disclose the fees. Okay, so that's why we're looking at index life. They do disclose the fees. We know exactly what they are, and we can see the different line items. Not all of these fees are created equal. We have a premium charge, a per unit charge, and a cost of insurance charge. Now, the premium charge and the per unit charge are generally speaking fixed. They're going to be fixed the moment that you purchase the policy. You're going to know what those are because it's just a straight premium load. Every time you pay a premium, a certain percentage comes off the top. And then the per unit charge is just a flat fee based on your starting death benefit. That is relatively standard across all companies. Okay, some might call it something else, but they are going to have two line items there, a premium load or premium charge and a per face fee or a per unit charge. They'll call it something, a coverage charge, but it's a flat fee for either 10, 12, or 15 years, and then typically it drops off. Those two charges, you know what they are. They tell you what they are. They don't really change. Okay, they are what they are. Where most people get hung up is in this cost of insurance column. Now this looks like a sexy chart. Our cost of insurance, we only pay cost of insurance in year 1 and 2, but only $287. You're telling me that we only pay cost of insurance for 2 years? We're paying $1 million into this policy and we're paying less than $1,000 total for the insurance costs? Like, that looks great. Sign me up. This is the cheapest policy you can possibly buy. Let's go. Well, yes, that is the way that it looks. However, there's a huge problem with this. And what I'm about to tell you is that this is not the trade-off that you want to make. You do not want to see $0 in cost of insurance. What? Right. You do not want to see $0 in cost of insurance, because if it's not here, it's going to show up somewhere else. Are you not buying insurance? No, of course you are. Well, where are the fees associated with the insurance? They're not housed here in the cost of insurance line item. They're actually housed in the rider charges. So you've essentially traded a cost of insurance for a rider charge in every single year. That is a huge deal. The rider charges are essentially made up of two line items. Number one is the surrender value waiver. Remember, we waived surrender charges to get that high early cash value. The second makeup of the rider charges is the term insurance rider. We put a bunch of term insurance into this contract to make it a little bit cheaper and see a higher cash value. Sometimes that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But in this design, it's an issue because we have no cost of insurance. And here's what you need to know about these two line items, cost of insurance and rider charges. The cost of insurance is exceptionally difficult to change, okay? It can change. Companies can change their cost of insurance. But in order to change their cost of insurance, they have to prove what's called adverse mortality. What that means is they followed all the rules. They built the house to code, okay? They didn't cut any corners. They did everything they were supposed to do. But they happened to experience abnormal losses, abnormal death rates. They insured all the people that got hit by a bus that year. They have to prove adverse mortality to their state insurance commissioner, who is an elected official, okay? They have to prove adverse mortality to a politician who then has to allow a fee increase on his own constituents. Okay, so let me say that again. They have to get a politician to essentially approve like a tax increase. Air quotes, right? It's not a tax increase, it's a premium increase on their own constituents. That hardly ever happens. Hardly ever. It's happened, I think, 3 times. I might be wrong on that, 3, 4 times tops. Every time it's happened, it's been a B-rated company, I believe. And typically through the process of a sale, a book of business gets sold, it's unprofitable, they have to raise fees in order to keep the block of business intact. Okay, well, that's a little bit different story here. You cannot just raise your cost of insurance. It is a process, it is difficult, and there's a maximum allowable increase on cost of insurance. Rider charges are totally different. A rider charge on almost every life insurance policy can be changed at any time for any reason in any amount. Now, I'm overstating that because some companies might have guardrails on their rider charges. Most do not. And maybe they have a guardrail on one rider, but not another. The bottom line is this: you do not want to shift your fees from a protected fee, cost of insurance, to an unprotected fee, rider charges. When you do that, you set yourself up to essentially give all of the power over to the insurance company to have total control over the fees that you pay on this policy outside of basically the 3 that are fixed. Well, 4, the policy fees fixed. So you got fixed fees here for the most part, fixed fees, and then you have an unfixed, no guardrails, no cost controls, can change at any time for any reason in any amount. They just send you a notice and you got to pay it. You do not want to make that trade-off. That is an incredibly risky trade-off to make for the purpose of just having higher cash value in those early years, because you're going to pay for it over the long run. Now, look, if you see this video and you think, I don't care, I want high early cash value, then great, go get it. But it would be wrong of me to say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing this. It's totally fine. It's just like anything else. There's really no risk. You just want more cash early. Yeah, we can do that. No questions asked. Let's go. But that's what most people out there are doing. And we get so many policies that come through our doors or that get sent to us where they had high early cash value, something like this, 200 in, they got 190 or so in cash, and they're 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and all of a sudden, none of the projections look even remotely close to what they were initially shown. And I'm going to show you one of those policies right now. So I want to highlight what was done here. So here's just an input summary. How was the coverage determined? Well, our death benefit option was level. And if you know anything, if you've been watching this channel and you've been following us for the last, 7 or 8 years, you know that right there is a dead giveaway that something might be wrong. Level death benefit, something's wrong here. Decrease the amount when we can. This is a lowering of the death benefit. Did not select that. Okay, so the death benefit stays high. That's another issue. Here's our testing type, our DEFRA type, our MEC testing, cash value accumulation test. Okay, so we know that this policy is going to be more expensive in the later years. That's also a red flag. It has the surrender value enhancement agreement. So surrender charges have been waived, and for that waiving of surrender charges, the fees on this policy have been increased for the life of the contract. Okay, so far, what do we have? We have a level death benefit. Nope. Need an increasing death benefit if we want maximum cash. We don't have any term blending on this particular contract. There should be some term blending. Too much term blending can get you in trouble because, again, you're trading cost of insurance for a rider charge. There is a sweet spot where you can make it work. None of it's being done here. They're not decreasing the death benefit to reduce the fees. And they did add that surrender value endorsement that waives surrender charges and adds fees. And here's the rub. Here's where this policy really just falls on its face. When this policy was written, it had a cap around 11, 12% on a year-by-year basis. Today, the in-force ledger, the cap has been absolutely decimated. Now, the cap on the one-year S&P is 6.25%. 6.25% in a one-year cap. There are fixed accounts right now that are paying 5.5%. The maximum cap on your S&P is 6.25%. It was sold around 12%. How can that be? Now, some people are going to say this is exactly why you shouldn't buy an index life policy. And I can understand why they would say that, because it seems like this is totally out of your control. They just have total control over what happens to your caps. And that is true. However, everything in this policy was done wrong. Everything was done wrong. When you choose a surrender value agreement, when you choose a cash value accumulation test, all of these things silo you into like a policy segment. Every little choice that you make separates you from the pack. And so what these companies can do when they set their caps, they can say, all right, I want to see every single policy that has a surrender value agreement, a surrender value rider on there. And we're going to decrease those caps. If you don't have one, we won't decrease your cap. But if you do, we will. They can do that. They can look at every policy and they can say, we want to look at all the policies that have this cash value accumulation test. A lot of those are the high early cash value policies. And we want to decrease the caps on every policy that has the CVAT DEFRA type. They can do that. They can go in there and they can change your caps and your fees based on what you've done to the policy, based on the policy design. And so this is why I just had to make this video. I've seen 3 or 4 of these policies in the last couple of weeks. It is crucially important that you are working with someone that understands the pushes and pulls of these products. If you come to me and you say, Matt, I want high early cash value. I've heard about this CVAT thing where I can get more cash early. I heard about these waiver of surrender charges where I can get more cash early. That's what I want. My job is to say, hey, that's great. Understand, I hear you. Let me tell you all the reasons why that could go wrong. If you're not getting that side of the conversation, I totally understand why you would think, oh man, this is a scam. They just dropped my cap to 6.25. If you came to me, I'd say, I don't think you want to do that. I really don't think you want to do that. I understand that you want high early cash value, and if you want it, you can have it, but you are setting yourself up to have a policy that is on, high on the list of policies to be adjusted or experience fee increases or experience cap decreases. And the flip side is there's a way to build these policies to where you don't put yourself at risk of experiencing a fee increase or a cap decrease, for no other reason other than, you were trying to kind of beat the system, game the system. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So here's what I'm going to submit to you. If you are considering cash value life insurance for a high early cash value reason, you need early cash as much as possible. You're talking to people and they're showing you waiver of surrender charge options. They're showing you, different little designs that get you more cash early. I'm just going to tell you, you need to be making sure that they're giving you the pros and cons of pursuing a high early cash value policy, because there is no such thing as a free lunch. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. But for whatever reason, when we start to see these ledgers, we see this ledger and it just looks so good. We see this ledger and this is exactly what I want. 200 in, I got 190 right away. I'm breaking even in year 3. This is exactly what I want. High early cash value in a tax preferential vehicle. Sign me up. But when you don't get the full context and you just see the illustration, but you don't know what can go wrong, I'm just telling you, you're setting yourselves up to be disappointed. You are being overpromised. And more often than not, those policies are going to under-deliver because there is no such thing as a free lunch. So if you're considering this, I would encourage you to book a discovery call with us. We are very good at this exact topic. We are very good at giving you the pros and cons of the decision that you are weighing. The different policy provisions you can add here to these types of contracts make a big difference on what you actually have 5, 10, and 15 years from now, which ultimately is what matters. It doesn't matter what the illustration looks like when you buy it. It doesn't matter. What matters is how much cash do you have in year 10, 15, 20, whenever you're going to actually use the policy. That's what matters. How did the policy actually perform relative to what you saw when you purchased it? And there's a right way to do these things so that you have the highest chance of actually getting out of these policies what you hope to get out. I'd encourage you, book a call with us. You can go to our website, leveragedwm.com. Up at the top, you'll see book a meeting. You go there, you can have a quick 30-minute discovery call with us. It's very low key. It is designed to answer your questions and see if we can help you. And if we can help you, we will. We do about 1,000 policy reviews a year. I think last time we checked, we've saved over like 75 million in lifetime fees just by restructuring these policies and getting out of bad designs. I would encourage you to take advantage of that service. If you like what we have to say, you can work with us. And we actually service these policies. We get together every single year to talk about it to make sure that it stays on track. So hopefully this has been helpful. It's not always as it seems. Don't just buy something because it looks good on paper. You have to ask more questions and you have to be working with someone that can give you the pros and cons of the different decisions and different ways that you can design these policies. Hopefully this has been helpful. Until next time, take care.